My daughter didn't scream the way most people scream. Not sharp, not loud, not dramatic. No, when she's hurt, it's quiet, controlled, like someone trying to hold their breath underwater while their lungs set themselves on fire. That's why the silence after I told her what I'd done felt wrong. Too still, too heavy, too loaded. Let me back up. My birthday was supposed to be simple this year. Coffee on the porch, a walk around the block, maybe dinner at that old diner off Willow Creek Road where the waitress still calls me Han even though I'm pushing 70. Nothing complicated, so when I saw the brown delivery box sitting against my front door, I smiled without thinking. The handwriting alone hit me in the gut. Lila, my daughter, the girl who mailed handwritten letters even in the age of emojis and FaceTime. The woman who'd once saved 3 months of restaurant tips to buy me a leather jacket I still wear today. I carried the box inside and opened it at my kitchen table. Inside was a watch. A brand new silver-rimmed black-dialed wristwatch with a note. Dad, I know you always say you don't need gifts, but I saw this, and I thought of you. Happy birthday. Love, L. I sat there a moment longer than I should have, running my thumb over the smooth glass. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't cheap either. It was careful, it was chosen, a daughter's kind of gift. Mark, my son-in-law, stopped by later that evening. He'd been doing real estate work across town, and he always made a point to check on the old man, as he jokingly put it. To anyone else, he'd seem like the perfect son-in-law, polite, charming, smart, funny in that quiet, observant way. But I always sensed something tight under his smile, like he lived a life holding the steering wheel too hard. He came in, we talked, the usual small talk about the housing market, the kids' schedules, how he and Lila were doing great, though he said it the way people say fine when they aren't. Then he noticed the watch. Wow, he said, picking it up. This is nice, really nice. You like it? I asked. I mean, yeah, I haven't worn a watch in years, but this looks good. I don't know why I said what I said next. I thought I was being kind, generous, helpful. Take it, I told him. It looks better on you anyway. He froze for just a second, then regained his smile. Really? You sure? I nodded. Why wouldn't I be? He shook my hand with both of his like I'd handed him a scholarship. He left that night grinning, wrist lifted, admiring his reflection in my hallway mirror. I didn't know that simple gesture would rip open the truth behind his charm. The next morning I was pouring myself coffee when my phone buzzed. Lila, I answered cheerfully. Hey, sweetheart. Dad, she said, sounding bright, breathless, excited. Did you open your gift? I did, she giggled. And? How's the watch? I turned, looked at my empty wrist and said the truth. Oh, I gave it to Mark. He seemed to like it. Silence, not confusion, not disappointment. A dead, suffocating silence, like the line had gone underwater. Dad, her voice finally came through, thin and cracking at the edges. You gave it to Mark? Yes, I said lightly. He needed one. Another silence, longer, heavier, then softly. You did what? Not playful, not teasing. Her voice was shaking. Her breathing harder to hide now. I sat down, suddenly alert. Lila, what's wrong? It's just a watch. No, she snapped. Then her voice broke. No, Dad, it wasn't just a watch. My chest tightened. Tell me what's going on. She inhaled sharply, then exhaled shakily like she was trying not to cry. I can't. Dad, I need to call you back. Lila. But the line went dead. I sat at the table staring at the phone, wondering what I'd stepped into. I didn't know it yet, but that watch was the first domino, and everything that would fall after was far darker than I was prepared for. The rest of the day dragged like heavy machinery. Lila didn't call back. I left 2 voicemails. I texted once. Nothing. That wasn't like her. My daughter and I talk, we anchor each other, we don't do this silent treatment nonsense. When she finally called at 7:14 p.m., her voice was calmer, too calm, like someone walking across thin ice. Dad, can we talk? She asked. I've been waiting, I said. She exhaled shakily. Mark told me you gave him the watch. I did. Why? The question was so small, but the hurt behind it, God, I felt it. I thought he'd enjoy it, I said gently. I thought it might brighten his day. She went quiet again, the kind of quiet that feels like someone pinching the bridge of their nose, holding back tears. Dad, she said finally, you can't just give him things. What do you mean? I've given him plenty before. Tools, a grill set, that winter jacket last year. No, she cut in. Not like this. Not something that personal. Personal? It was a watch, but her voice was trembling again, and this time she didn't try to hide it. Dad, you don't understand, she whispered. Then help me understand. Another long silence. Then barely audible. Mark isn't who you think he is. The words hit me like cold water. What does that mean? I asked carefully. She swallowed audibly. Dad, you didn't just give him a watch. You gave him something he'll use against me. That sentence chilled me to my bones, because it wasn't dramatic. It wasn't exaggerated. It was the voice of someone who'd been holding something in for too long. Mark called me 20 minutes later. Not texted, not waited, called. His tone was upbeat, forced upbeat. Hey, I heard you talk to Lila. Is everything okay? No, I said bluntly. I don't think so. He laughed too quickly. Oh, she's just emotional today. You know how she gets. My spine stiffened. No, I said slowly. I don't. He paused. Just a beat, but a beat that told me everything I needed to know. Mark wasn't the calm, polished, level-headed man he pretended to be. There was something under that calm, something sharp, something controlled, something that shifted when he didn't like the tone of your voice. Well, he said, tone tightening, just letting you know she's fine. That's strange, I replied, because she didn't sound fine. Silence, a colder silence. Did she say anything? He asked. Not curious, not concerned, fearful. That told me more than any confession could. No, I lied. She didn't. He exhaled, a soft, relieved sound he didn't mean for me to hear. We're good then, he said quickly. Listen, Dad, I've got to run. Thanks again for the watch. He hung up before I could answer. I stared at my phone, and for the first time, I realized Mark wasn't calling to check on me. He was calling to check on the damage. Something was wrong in their marriage, very wrong. An hour later, Lila showed up at my house. No call, no text. Just headlights sweeping across my driveway and her puffy-eyed face standing at my door. She walked in, sat on my couch, wrapped her arms around herself like she was cold. Dad, I need to tell you something, but I don't know how. I sat beside her slowly. Tell me why the watch upset you. She squeezed her eyes shut, inhaled deeply, then opened them. Mark doesn't like when I give gifts, she said softly. Not big ones, not personal ones. He says it makes him feel indebted. Indebted. The word sounded wrong, heavy, careful, like one she'd learned from him. Does he get angry? I asked gently. She hesitated. That hesitation told me the answer before she spoke. Not angry, she whispered. Just different. Different how? She looked away. Cold, controlled, quiet in a way that makes me feel like I owe him an apology even when I didn't do anything wrong. I felt something tighten inside me. Lila, I said carefully, does he talk to you in ways that scare you? She didn't cry. She didn't fall apart. She just nodded once. Small, barely noticeable, but enough. He never hits me, she added quickly as if defending him. That was another red flag, a bright one. I leaned back, processing everything at once. The watch, the silence, the fear in her voice, the way Mark asked, did she say anything? This wasn't about a gift. This wasn't about a misunderstanding. This was a fracture in their marriage. one I'd unknowingly widened. "Dad," she whispered, "please don't say anything to him, please." "Why not?" She looked at me, really looked at me, and behind all the exhaustion and fear, I saw something else: shame. "I'm not ready," she said. "To leave, to confront, to fight. I'm not ready for any of it." I put my hand on hers. "You're safe here," I said quietly. "Always." But even as I said it, a dark thought slipped into my mind. If a simple watch made him react like this, what else had he reacted to behind closed doors? And what hadn't she told me yet? If you've ever watched someone you love hide pieces of themselves because of someone else, hit the like button. Stories like this are hard to tell and even harder to live. I didn't sleep that night. Not because of fear, not because of stress, but because of the look in my daughter's eyes when she said, "Mark isn't who you think he is." Those 8 words sat on my chest like weight plates. I kept replaying every interaction I'd ever had with Mark, every polite smile, every handshake, every sir, every joke he cracked at family dinners. I'd always said he was the calm one. Now I realized calm has 2 versions, the peaceful kind and the controlled kind. Mark's calm was the second type, the kind that looks stable until someone bumps the table and the whole house of cards wobbles. I saw it now, but the question that kept turning in my mind was, why hadn't I seen it earlier? When someone knocks on your door before 9 a.m., it's rarely good news. I opened it. There he was, Mark, dressed in a button-up, hair perfect, posture perfect, smile perfect, too perfect. He held a coffee tray in his hand, 2 lattes and a blueberry muffin. "I figured you might need breakfast," he said cheerfully. His voice was warm, friendly, sunny, but his eyes, cold, flat, like a lake with dead winter underneath. I forced a polite nod. "Come in." He stepped inside, casually scanning my house the way a predator checks for exits. He handed me the latte. "Extra foam," he said, "just how you like it." That unsettled me more than it should have. I'd told him that once, 2 years ago. He remembered. He always remembered. But not in the sweet way grandchildren remember your favorite candy. This felt calculated, like data he stored in a mental file labeled leverage. He set the muffin on the counter, then leaned against my fridge casually. "So," he said lightly, "Lila told me she came over last night." "Yes." "And you two talked?" "Some." He kept smiling. "So, what exactly did she tell you?" There it was. Not curiosity, not concern, but control. He needed to know the boundaries of what had slipped. He needed the transcript. Instead of answering him, I asked, "Mark, why are you here?" His smile widened too fast. "To clear the air," he said. "I don't want any misunderstandings between us." Misunderstandings. Abusers love that word. It implies the victim is confused, not hurt, not scared, just misunderstanding. I folded my arms. "What exactly do you think I misunderstood?" The smile faltered. "Just for half a second. Barely noticeable unless you're looking for it." "I'm just saying," he replied slowly. "Lila can be emotional. She gets overwhelmed sometimes. Says things she doesn't mean." "And you?" I asked. "Do you say things you don't mean?" He didn't blink. He didn't shift. He didn't breathe wrong. He just held that perfect smile and said, "Never." That was the moment, right there, when I understood the truth. Mark wasn't calm. He was empty. A man who replaces emotion with control. A man who uses tone the way others use weapons. A man who never raises his voice because he doesn't need to. He just lowers yours. He casually unwrapped the muffin he'd brought and split it in half with his bare hands. "Want some?" he asked. "No?" He nodded, took a small bite, and chewed slowly. Then he spoke with that same gentle, suffocating politeness. "You know, it would really help if you told me what Lila said, just so I can support her." Support, the way a spider supports a fly. I walked to the sink and rinsed my coffee mug, giving myself a few seconds to think. You should talk to her, I said calmly. He stared at me. The politeness dropped, just for a moment, like a mask slipping. Dad, he said softly. He never calls me Dad. Dad, I just want to make sure everything stays peaceful. Peaceful. I recognize that word now, too. In his vocabulary, peaceful meant, don't challenge me, don't interfere, don't embolden her. I dried the mug slowly. She's my daughter, I said. I'll always talk to her. The corner of his mouth twitched. Not a smile, not anger, something else, a glitch. He set the rest of the muffin down, wiped his hands, and stood. Well, he said, voice cold now. Thanks for the talk. We'll figure this out. Then he leaned in, too close, and spoke just above a whisper. She listens to you. Just be careful what you say to her. She's fragile. Fragile. Another word abusers love. Fragile means breakable. Breakable means controllable. He walked out, never broke eye contact. Not once. When the door shut behind him, I realized I was still gripping the counter. My hand hurt. I looked down. My knuckles were white. 2 hours later, after pacing my kitchen like a caged animal, I decided to drive over to their house, not to confront Mark, not yet. But because something in my gut felt wrong, like Lila wasn't safe. When I arrived, the house was quiet, too quiet. I rang the doorbell. No answer. I knocked. No answer. Then I noticed something small. Something so subtle it could have been nothing. The curtains in the living room were closed. Lila never closed those curtains during the day. Sunlight was her thing. Natural light. Open windows, fresh air. But now the house looked sealed, shuttered, dim. I tried the doorknob. Locked. I stepped back, unsure whether to call or leave, when I heard it. A faint sound. From inside. Not loud enough to be words, not sharp enough to be a scream, just a sound. A muffled, trapped sound. My stomach dropped. I knocked harder. Lila, you home? Silence. Then footsteps. Soft ones. Approaching the door. The lock turned. The door cracked open. And there she was, my daughter. But not like yesterday. Not like the night she cried on my couch. This version of her was drained. Eyes red, hair unbrushed, shoulders slumped. She wasn't crying now, which somehow felt even worse. Dad, she whispered, now's not a good time. I looked past her into the dim living room. Is he here? I asked quietly. She swallowed hard. Yes. A chill ran through me. I need to talk to you, I said gently. Just for a minute. She glanced over her shoulder, involuntarily, the way someone does when they're not allowed to break routine. Dad, she whispered, please go. Lila, please. Her voice cracked, just once. Then her face hardened the way someone hardens clay fast before anyone sees it wet. I stepped back slowly. I'll call you, she said. But I knew from her tone she wouldn't. Not while he was around. Not while she was under whatever invisible weight he was placing on her. She closed the door, softly, quietly, like she didn't want the sound to travel. If you've ever watched someone you love disappear behind their partner's shadow, hit like so more people see this story. I drove to the grocery store afterward because I needed noise, movement, anything. I was walking back to my truck when I saw Mark across the parking lot, pacing beside his car, phone in hand. He didn't see me at first. His face wasn't calm now, not charming, not composed. It was twisted, hard, cold. He was hissing into the phone. I told you not to involve him, Lila. I told you no, stop crying, just listen to me. My heart thudded. He froze when he finally saw me. His expression snapped back into place like a rubber band. Hey, he said too cheerfully. Small world. I walked closer, slow, deliberate. I just spoke to Lila, I said. He stiffened barely, but I caught it. Oh, is she okay? No, she's not. His jaw clenched, Just once, a tiny pulse. Then he smiled again. That's marriage, he said lightly. Ups and downs. That's not marriage, I said. That's fear. A flicker of something dark passed through his eyes, fast but unmistakable. Careful, he said calmly. You're misunderstanding things again. Again. That word. In his mind, I was already wrong before I even opened my mouth. I took one step closer, close enough to smell the mint gum he always chewed, close enough to see the faint vein pulsing in his temple. Mark, I said quietly, I'm going to ask you something simple, and I want the truth. He said nothing, just stared. Are you hurting my daughter? A pause. Then, he smiled, but it wasn't a warm smile. It was the kind of smile someone gives right before they close a door and lock it. Hurting her? He repeated softly. Why would I hurt something that belongs to me? My stomach flipped. My hands went cold. Before I could respond, he stepped back, opened his car door, and slid in. Drive safe, Dad, he said through the window. Wouldn't want anything happening to you. He drove off, slow, controlled, purposeful. And I stood there in the parking lot with the truth I could no longer avoid. This wasn't just emotional darkness, it was something deeper, something dangerous, something that had a plan. If you want to know what I discovered next, and how deep Mark's darkness really went, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. I didn't sleep that night either. Not because of fear, though that crept in slowly, but because my mind wouldn't stop running through what I'd seen and heard. Lila's drained face, her trembling voice, the way Mark's calm was anything but. I kept asking myself, how deep does this go? And the next morning I found the first piece of the puzzle. I told myself I was just going to check on things, nothing confrontational, just a cautious, fatherly glance. When I pulled into their driveway, the house looked off. The morning sun hit the windows in sharp angles, but one window on the side was slightly ajar. Not enough to scream break in, but enough to make my stomach drop. Lila never leaves windows like that, ever. I walked closer, quietly, trying not to make a sound. That's when I heard it, the soft click of something sliding across the floor, and then a muffled groan. It wasn't just the house being quiet, it was the quiet of someone trying to hide from life itself. I pushed the screen open gently, peered inside, and froze. On the coffee table, half hidden under a stack of magazines, was a small black notebook. At first glance, it looked normal, a journal maybe. But as soon as I picked it up, I noticed the neat handwriting, Mark's handwriting. Inside, it wasn't a diary, not really, it was instructions, notes about Lila, things like, watch reactions carefully. She said something about Dad today, step in calmly, reset her emotions, ensure compliance. She's fragile. Any deviation needs correction. Use indirect influence first. Birthday gift from Dad, track impact. Could create tension, adjust tomorrow. I dropped the notebook. My hand shook. This wasn't just control, it was planning, calculation, a manual for manipulating someone he claimed to love. I couldn't breathe. I felt sick. I heard a car start in the driveway. My stomach flipped. He was home. I had to hide. I ducked behind the living room sofa just as the front door opened. Mark stepped in, smiling, that same too-perfect smile. He glanced around like he knew something was off. He didn't see the notebook on the table, didn't notice me, and that was terrifying. I needed to know how far this went. So I stayed hidden and listened. He pulled out his phone, dialed Lila. Hey, he said smoothly, how's your day? Her voice answered quickly, soft, fearful. Hi. I couldn't hear all of it, but the tone was enough. He wasn't just controlling her physically or emotionally. He was micromanaging her, every word, every gesture. I knew at that moment, if I didn't act carefully, I could make things worse. If you've ever had the gut feeling something loved ones are hiding is dangerous, hit like now. Your instincts matter, and sometimes they can save lives. 2 days later, I finally saw my chance. Lila left for a work meeting. Mark was alone, pacing the kitchen. I entered slowly, hands raised. "Mark," I said evenly. He froze. That smile flickered. Not gone, but shaky. "Dad," he said carefully, "I didn't hear you come in." "Clearly," I said. "I'm here because I need answers." He took a step closer, too close. "About what?" I didn't flinch. "The notebook, the instructions, your plan to control my daughter." His eyes hardened. Calm returned, but it was colder this time. "You're misunderstanding things," he said lightly. I stepped closer. "Am I? Or are you finally revealing who you really are?" His hand twitched, the first sign of emotion I'd ever seen. Anger, almost violent in its subtlety. He smiled again. "Careful what you say. You don't know what you're stepping into." I leaned forward. "I know enough to get her out of here if I have to." Later that evening, when Lila came home, I finally spoke with her alone. I laid the notebook on the table. "Lila," I said softly, "I saw this. I know what he's been doing." Her face turned pale. She looked like someone who'd been holding their breath for years. "I didn't want you to see," she whispered. I thought I could handle it. I didn't want to admit it, even to myself." Her hands shook as she touched the notebook. "I didn't realize how much he controls me, makes me doubt myself, makes me afraid of everything." I took her hands in mine. "You're not alone, not anymore." And for the first time in months, I saw a spark of relief in her eyes. That night, I made a decision. Mark had underestimated me. He thought I was blind to the truth, but I wasn't. I started documenting everything, every interaction, every call, every subtle manipulation. I wasn't just protecting Lila anymore. I was preparing for what had to come, because if this went unchecked, it would only get worse. That night, I didn't go to sleep. I couldn't. I had to see for myself, had to know how far Mark's control extended. I parked a few blocks away from their house, my headlights off, heart pounding, fingers gripping the steering wheel. Every instinct screamed, "Be careful, don't get caught, watch him." Through the blinds, I saw movement. Mark was pacing the living room, phone in hand, talking low, calm, too calm. He didn't know I was watching, not yet. Then I noticed her. Lila. She wasn't sitting, she wasn't on the couch. She was standing, trembling slightly, arms crossed over her chest. And he was speaking to her, but not like a husband, like a commander giving orders. "Look at me," he said softly, too gently. She looked, just barely. "You promised," he whispered. "Mark, Her voice shook. He cut her off. "No excuses, you know the rules." Rules, not marriage. Rules. I stayed crouched in my car, observing until something caught my eye on the kitchen counter. A small box. I knew it immediately. That watch, the one I'd given him. He was holding it, turning it over in his hands like a weapon. The thought made my stomach churn. It wasn't just a gift anymore. It was leverage, evidence of a plan, control, fear. And suddenly, the little puzzle pieces of all the small things I'd noticed in the past 2 years, the comments, the reminders, the subtle digs at Lila's confidence, clicked into place. It wasn't a charm. It was manipulation. I realized I had to act, not in anger, not in haste. I had to protect Lila, yes, but I also had to be strategic. I slipped inside quietly. The door unlocked. She must have left it ajar. I stayed in the shadows, moving silently. Mark didn't notice me at first. I stepped closer, hand raised. "Mark," I said, low and calm. He froze. That perfect smile faltered. "Dad," he said, tone careful, calculated, guarded. "Step away from her," I said firmly. Something shifted then. I saw it, a flicker of fear in his eyes. The first real fear I'd ever seen. "You don't understand," he said smoothly. "This isn't what it looks like." I do understand, I replied, voice steady. I understand enough to know you've been controlling my daughter, enough to know I will not let it continue. Lila stepped forward, voice shaking. Dad, he's been like this for years. Small things at first, then bigger, gifts, conversations, even friends. Everything I care about, he has a way of controlling it. Tears ran down her cheeks. I thought it was love. I thought it was normal. I thought I deserved it, but it's fear. I put my arms around her. You don't deserve fear. Not from anyone. Not ever. Mark's jaw tightened. He looked like a man trying to hold a hurricane inside a glass jar. We had to document everything. I pulled out my phone, started recording interactions, taking notes of dates, times, and incidents. Lila helped. She wrote down the subtle manipulations, the threats, the ways Mark isolated her. It was painstaking, emotional, terrifying, but it was necessary. Because when a man like Mark realizes he's being watched, things can turn dangerous. And we had to be ready. It didn't take long. Mark realized I was documenting. He noticed the phone, the notebook, the notes. That evening, he cornered me in the driveway as I left with Lila. Dad, he said, smiling, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. What do you think you're doing? Protecting my daughter, I said. Calm, firm. His expression hardened, cold, calculating. Careful, he said. You're out of your depth. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. The law, the evidence, and our plan spoke louder than threats. For the first time, I saw him falter. Not completely, but enough. And that was enough for me. By the end of that week, we had enough evidence to consult an attorney, enough to start building a safety net. It was small, just the beginning. But for the first time in months, Lila smiled. Not fully, not entirely free yet, but enough to know she wasn't alone. We had hope, and hope was a dangerous thing for someone like Mark. The night Mark realized we were serious changed everything. I knew he was dangerous. I knew he had plans. But I didn't expect the way his calm would crack like ice breaking under pressure, sharp and unpredictable. Lila and I stayed up late, reviewing notes, documenting everything, planning our next move. Suddenly, a shadow moved across the living room window. Mark. He wasn't supposed to be home. I opened the door slowly. Lila behind me, trembling but resolute. Mark's eyes snapped to ours. That smile, too perfect, too controlled, faltered for the first time. Dad, he said smoothly, what are you doing here? I stepped forward, voice steady. Stopping this. Stopping you. His jaw tightened. He circled us slowly, every step calculated, every word measured. You don't understand, he hissed. She's mine. She belongs with me. She's a human, I said, not yours to control. For the first time, he raised his voice, barely a whisper, but it cut through the room. Do you even know what you're dealing with? I did, more than he could imagine. Something changed in Lila that night. She stepped forward, breaking free of the fear I'd seen her carry for months. Mark, she said, voice shaking but clear, I am not yours. I don't owe you obedience. I don't owe you silence. I don't owe you fear. He froze. That perfect control, that quiet menace shattered. It was the first time I'd seen him truly rattled. Her defiance ignited a spark in me. I knew we could win this. That's when my eyes fell on the watch. The same watch I'd given him. He'd kept it, hidden, cataloged, used, and now it sat on the counter like a ticking reminder of his control. I picked it up slowly. Lila saw the look on my face. I didn't think he'd keep it, she whispered. But he did, and now it was evidence, proof of manipulation, proof of the danger. By morning, we had everything ready. Evidence documented, notes cataloged, witnesses identified, phone calls recorded. This wasn't about revenge. It was about safety, Lila's freedom, justice. Mark didn't realize that control alone wasn't enough anymore. We were prepared prepared to take the next step. I drove Lila to a safe location first, a friend's house across town, somewhere Mark wouldn't think to look. Then, with the attorney and evidence in hand, I returned. I wasn't scared. Not really. I was determined. Every interaction, every note, every phone call had led to this moment. Mark answered the door, calm as ever, but this time I saw through it. "Mark," I said, voice steady, "this ends now." He raised an eyebrow. "What are you talking about?" I stepped forward, placing the notebook and watch on the counter. "This is proof. Your manipulation, your control, your psychological games, it stops today." His face twitched. That cold, measured calm shattered. You can't," he started, voice rising for the first time. "Yes," I said firmly. "We can." And we did. The authorities were waiting outside. He knew it. He saw it. The power he thought he had evaporated. She walked in then, eyes wide, face pale but free. For the first time in months, she could breathe. No fear, no hesitation, just relief. "Dad, thank you," she whispered, voice shaking. "You never deserved this," I said. And in that moment, I realized control like Mark's only works until someone refuses to be silent. Mark faced the law. He couldn't charm, manipulate, or plan his way out. Everything he had hidden came to light. It wasn't about punishment for me, it was about accountability, safety, and truth. And Lila, she was finally free. If this story moved you, if it reminded you that silence is dangerous and courage can save a life, then don't leave without taking action. Hit like. So this message reaches someone who needs it. Subscribe so you never walk alone through stories like this again. And stay with this channel because every week we dive into the real battles people fight behind closed doors, the secrets, the truths, the victories, and the hope that keeps us going. This isn't just a channel, it's a family that refuses to look away. So join us. Your next life-changing story starts here.